Then comes the design of this motorcycle, which is kind of weird. First, not everybody is going to like this design. I'm not saying it is unpretty. There is a certain stance to this motorcycle, which in some of the colors looks good. I'll come to yeah. Which in some colors also looks good-ish. But is this going to be naturally a motorcycle like say the Speed 400, which everybody thought, wow, that is so proportionate and so good looking? Absolutely not. Sorry, you had a thing about the design which is in your bonnet.
Why isn't it called a scrambler?
I think the 19-inch front wheel is the key thing to it being called a scrambler, and I think those tires that they put on it is confusing you. We'll discuss the tires in detail because that is one of the weakest aspects of this motorcycle.
Because this entire stance of the bike
Yeah.
is so scrambler.
Yeah. But I think eventually...
And I mean specifically Ducati scrambler. It looks just like that. Like,
in some ways, yes, I agree. And I think that the reason why they won't use the Scram name for this is because the Scram 411, strangely enough, still exists. It has
that's
not...
a completely different kind of bike.
Yeah, and it has not been replaced yet. So that name is occupied. So to Scram 411, Scram 450 existing together would produce two completely different riding experiences. So as a family of bikes, they cannot name the two things the same. And I think this 450 line will gain at least a third bike, which will be the 19-inch front. So you'll get the 17, 19, 21 setup. You get the Himalayan, Scram and Guerrilla. What?
This is not adding up. Because, I mean, this looks so much like a scrambler. And this, I mean, if this is supposed to be that middle of the line, let's say the more modern styled motorcycle, it's not doing that either. And I expected more aggression.
Remember that 1 foot in the pasta? That is always going to trip this bike up.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you know, when we were also, I mean, this is one of the strange times when I haven't even gone and spoken to him about the bike, you know, just general kind of trying to get a sense of it. I didn't even sit on the bike because it was such a disconnect in my head in terms of what I was expecting.
Yeah, so to me, first thing you do is you ignore the Ducati Scrambler look thing being connected to anything about this bike. Because yes, it does remind you of those, especially this white and blue color that we got, which reminds you so strongly of the Sled's colors.
No, it doesn't. I'm not saying that it does. It's meant to be a scrambler in terms of the Ducati Scrambler, but the entire profile of the bike is so that way. And if I thought of a naked from Royal Enfield, I expected not this.
That's the thing. It's not modern enough and it's not retro enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's anyways, yes. So yeah, that was my thing about the design.
Yeah, so to me, the design reference for this bike is a bit of a pendulum. And it sort of rocks between little retro, little modern, little retro, little modern. And it can't really decide what it wants to be. And therefore, I'm saying some of you will love it. And some of you will absolutely detest this bike. And that's just how it is. Like when I saw this color that they call the yellow ribbon, which has polka dots on it in purple on a yellow background. Half the tank is black. All the badging is purple. I cannot do it.
So in California.
Please send me the pearl white and blue bike, which is the one you'll see in the pictures. Then that bike wasn't running well. We'll discuss that also. So we got the second test bike, which is what they call the Playa Black, which is a black bike with effectively the colors of the Belgian flag on it.
Oh, really?
They want to call it Spanish, but the stripes are verticals. It's a Belgian flag.
Okay.
This bike comes in 3 versions called Analog, Flash and Dash, I think, or Analog, Dash and Flash, I forget. The base version has the same old analog digital meters.
Okay.
Then the above two have the TFT display from the Himalayan with updates. And if you're a Himalayan owner, you're supposed to get those updates backwards to your motorcycle also as a software update at some point. Okay? What?
Carry on.
To me, obvious issues, I think, is we tried the 390 Duke generation of motorcycles that had the 11-liter tanks. And out on the highway, they were really annoying. Royal Enfield is saying, hey, listen, this bike will still do 300 of range, but I don't think it's enough. Because the WMTC number is 29.5, so it's 29.5 into 11, you'll get roughly 300 is the calculation. In the real world, you're not going to stop until it is at the end of its reserve and all of that stuff. So you'll trade off 50, 70, 80 kilometers there. So you're down to a range of 220. So can the engine and the frame tour? Yes, it can. But can the Guerrilla tour as a package? It's going to be difficult. Not impossible, but it's unnecessarily difficult. If this was a 13.5 liter tank, as many of the motorcycles in that class have today, I think this would be a non-issue. But for whatever reason, it is 11. Part of it is packaging because remember the airbox is up and under the tank. So the tank sort of wraps around this. So the volume is limited. That's one of the issues. So to keep the tank slim and to keep it approachable, blah, 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 tank capacity has been traded in. So it's only 11 liters. Seat height in the process though, because there's a new subframe. The seat height is super low. It's 780 millimeters, which the last time we saw most recently was on the R3 and the MTO3. It makes the bike really accessible, and it is quite narrow there. So very, very short riders will very easily be able to get on this bike, where a normal 780 might even bother them a little bit. The Guerrilla may not bother them at all. To the point where all the optional seats are higher than that.
Okay.
So you can raise the seat height by up to 20 millimeters, I think. And there's two kinds of seats you can get. You can get a what looks like a dirt bikey kind of flat seat, and a quilted seat, which is a little bit more shaped. So you have two seat options in their catalog.
So the weight also doesn't feel like an issue.
Because you have your feet down securely, no. But can you get away from the impression that this is a heavy bike? No, not at all. Because it is lower to the ground. So ground clearance is a little bit lower also in the process. But again, it's a street bike, so it doesn't need the Himalayan's massive ground clearance. The side stand is now a reasonable size.
And this is obviously on alloys.
This is also on 17-inch alloys. It's lower to the ground. So when you put the side stand on, the bike immediately doesn't go to sleep like the Himalayan. And all that people struggling to get the Himalayan up and all that drama is not going to happen. Is it a light bike though? No, it's not. It is reasonably well balanced. So it's not going to constantly bug you. That is a clip from MotorInc. And what that means is, if you'd like to see more of these, you can do two things. One is stay on this channel, subscribe and watch more, or you can come to the main MotorInc channel, where you'll find a much longer video that discusses this idea in a lot more detail.